Hello, welcome everyone. So lovely to see you for our repricing masterclass. And we have had a lot of interest in this, which we are very excited about. I was just telling Steph and Vitor that when we're running a masterclass that clearly is relevant to what you guys are thinking about, talking about, that gets me really excited because we want to talk about what matters to you. And this concept of repricing crosses over things like systems and how you calculate your prices and marketing. And the marketing aspect of repricing is what we're going to look at today. How do you communicate this? How do you help people understand this value of repricing? My name is Karen Rayburn. I'm the owner and founder of PF. Many of you will know me and know me as the author of The Accountant Marketer. That is my first book. My second book on accountants are creative too. So you have a creative mindset as a human and as an accountant. That one's coming out later this year. Pre-orders for sure later this year. Really excited about that one as well. So all of this comes from just constantly talking with accountants. And one of the things that keeps coming up with accountants is this concept of repricing. And there's just been so many clients I've been meeting with lately, and even accountants who aren't clients who are saying, oh, I need to reprice, but I'm not sure how, or I have repriced, but I need to know how to communicate it. So there's three areas that we're going to talk about today. The first one is ultimately the core, the heart of repricing is connecting what you know about your worth and value to their understanding of the value and impact that they receive. This is the bit that most people miss with repricing, because when you're considering repricing, a lot of times it comes from, hey, our costs are going up, or it's taking more to deliver, whatever it be. And you forget for a second that a lot of times it isn't about the money for them. It's about them understand the client. It's about them understanding the value they're receiving for that money. I remember a advert I saw a long time ago. I had a picture of it and it came up on my phone, and it was a picture of a sofa, and it said, you can save 677,034 pounds. And they said, that's because this sofa is worth £1 million, but it's only costing you this. And I thought, well, that's really clever. You know, they're trying this like, hey, this is a really valuable sofa. And, you know, you're saving all this money. It's a little tricksy. But the point is that if you did value that sofa or the accounting services or marketing services at that level, then what you understand about what you pay impacts that. We'll talk a little bit about how much the increase is. Spoiler alert, this will probably be the easiest part for you because you are accountants. But we will touch on that because it is important to know your worth and value, know how much the increase is so that you can communicate the price increase and why. That's ultimately what your buyer is wondering. Whether they're an existing client or a future client, they are wondering, does this price match what I am getting? So what I would love to hear, I'm presuming you're on this masterclass because you are considering a price increase, you're in the middle of a price increase. If you are considering that, where is that coming from for you? Just throw a sentence or a note into the chat box. It's there. The more that you share with us throughout this masterclass, the more I can adapt it to what you all need to hear. So I'd love to hear why you're considering it. If you're considering it, if you're like, no, I just thought it was interesting, I already did a price increase, that's fine as well. But drop that into the chat so that we can make sure we adapt what we're talking about. There, while you're doing that, and you're welcome to, you know, pick one of these four or multiple of them, there's multiple kinds of price changes. And actually, I do want to state this, there's a difference between a price increase and a price change. Now, most of the time, the price is going up. But from time to time, there is a price change that happens because this fee needs to go down, or the fee for this individual client, they don't need that thing anymore. So it may be one of these things you're considering. It might be all of them. It might be a combination. So I would also be curious, a few of you, oh good, some comments there about what you're considering. I would also drop into the chat just a 1, 2, 3, or 4. If you had to pick one of these, that you are going to action and do in your firm. Do you need to do all fees? Do you need to consider particular prices? Do you need to consider particular clients? Or do you need to consider charging for something you haven't been charging for before? And yes, totally acceptable to type in 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got one of those. I was going to say a combo is totally welcome. And that is, as I said, that's why we're having this masterclass, because when you're looking at these, I'm just looking at some of the reasons that you guys are considering this. There's some really common themes here to encourage you. You're not alone in this. Scope increase happens all the time. You bring somebody on, the prices are all spot on, and then things change, and either you haven't adjusted, or it's been difficult, or you forgot, or whatever it be. That has to happen. Annual price increase. A few people put that in, which is a really interesting question. Short version is I'm a fan of changing the prices when you need to, not just once a year, but once a year is a good opportunity to just check. Just check, like, this is what we're charging and this is why. Legacy pricing, that's a comment from Claudia. Absolutely, this happens all the time. It's very normal. You've got clients you took on 3 years ago. I remember I started PF 12 years ago. We had people who were spending 99 pounds a month. And honestly, when I think about the sheer amount of stuff I did for them, but that was 12 years ago. You know, time changes. We got 20 team members now. Like, there's a different value to what we're delivering, and same for you. Existing clients need to be aligned with new pricing. That's another one. So maybe you have made the pricing increase and it's working great for the new clients, but the existing clients, the legacy clients, they need to get aligned. So the review of how to communicate is going to be really relevant. Haven't increased in years. That's very normal. If you just carry on, and there's going to be some fears that you'll have about changing those prices, and particularly increasing them, because you know how it feels to be on the receiving end of a price increase, whether it's a small one, couple pounds, whether it's a big one. And ultimately, the biggest frustration I have experienced or seen people experience is when there's a price change out of the blue with no explanation as to why, and you're feeling frustrated at not understanding the reason. And so that's why we want to focus, first of all, before we get into the communicating bit, which we absolutely will, and I want to spend the bulk of the masterclass on that. This all comes down to you being confident in your worth and value so that you can communicate that. Because a price increase communication is not, hi, our prices are going up. Prices have gone up all across the world. You know how it goes. Here's the new price. Love you. Bye. That's not really a price increase email, or it is, but it's not a good one, because you've got to think about things from your client's perspective. How are they feeling? What are they worried about? What are you worried about? And this is where the fears that you have begin to conflict a little, because at times you think, oh no, what if we're not that valuable? What if this isn't a good price increase? So a lot of things that you can do as part of the price increase is this opportunity for you as a business owner of an accounting firm, as a person providing services, to remind yourself of what you do. And if there are gaps, fix them. Use that as an opportunity. So I would love to hear what kind of worries or fears or concerns or wonderings are striking you as you consider, right, I'm going to increase my prices, or I need to tell my clients I'm increasing my prices. What worry comes to mind? What are you like, oh, God, I'm really not looking forward to this for this reason? What kind of worry would you have about increasing prices? I have a few thoughts from some of the accountants I've been speaking to, but I'd love to hear from those who are here. What worries you? And just as a note, while you're typing that in, remember what we're doing is putting ourselves in the place of the buyer, because you have worries, they've got worries too. So let's start with yours, because when we look at your worries, then we can approach the communication that way. So Shella said, people will leave and I haven't got the new clients to fill. That's a justifiable worry and concern. And we are going to talk about timing, because you can do things all at once or you can do things staged. Worried my clients won't think I deserve to be paid more. This is back to this knowing your worth. Like, will they see that? Are they going to understand that? Or losing all clients or many clients. Maybe you're over servicing. A lot of times that happens with scope creep. You just keep over servicing, and out of fear, you over service because you're like, well, if I don't serve them, they'll leave. And then it just builds. And pretty soon you're running a charity. So that's what we want to help you with, because again, you are the accountant, you know the numbers and you know how it works. And looks like a lot of people are saying that the concern is that people will leave, they'll look elsewhere. So the number one thing to keep in your mind is, as we look at what your worth is, it's also relevant to address this when you're sharing it and say, listen, now I know being on the receiving end of this is tough. You might be considering looking elsewhere. I understand that. I want to show you this, this, and this, and help you be able to compare properly. That might be an approach that you take. Because if we don't address what we know they're thinking, or what we're thinking, then it's just a generic marketing ChatGPT email that doesn't actually connect with the emotions and the humanity. So these are some of the ones that we've heard before, and these are matching to a lot of ones that you've put in there. Clients are going to leave. They're going to be annoyed. What about this one? We're not doing a good enough job yet. You know, maybe I'm not able to increase my prices because I don't feel justified. So we're going to look at how you can do all of that, but ultimately there is a big aspect of value that we're considering here. And I actually want to go further than the word value, because value pricing is something that is just a phrase that gets used so much we don't even know what it means. But I like the word impact, because the word impact says, what is the impact on the client for the work that I am doing? And what is that worth to them? So some of you may have heard the story of a company that had a massive piece of machinery. I mean, you're talking like $100 million piece of machinery. This thing is massively valuable, and it broke down. And it is producing and producing in the warehouse, and they don't know how to fix it. So they call in the person who knows this machine inside and out. Probably a nice ancient person with white hair and beard, because of the experience. The experience is literally flowing out of this person. Maybe they helped to build this machine, and they alone know what's going on. And this person walks around the whole machine for about 90 seconds, or maybe 50 seconds, not even a minute, walks around, pulls out his little hammer, gives a tap, machine is fixed. And he charges them $10,000. They're like, what? You spent 1 minute. 1 minute you walked around and you tapped in one little place. And he said, yes, I charge you $9,999 for, or I charge you $1 for the minute and going around. I charge you $9,999 for knowing where to tap. Anybody could have pulled out a hammer and tapped. But the size of that machine and the things that it is, they could have been tapping for months, years, decades, and not have done it the right way. That's what we're talking about with value and impact, because your clients often don't know where to tap. And they don't understand what they don't understand. I think some of you have seen my LinkedIn post about when I was on the Isles of Lewis and Harris, we went and heard from somebody who weaves the official Harris tweed. We spent an hour with this guy, and honestly, I'm probably more confused now than I was at the beginning, and also more impressed. Whatever Harris tweed, the original legit stuff costs, it is worth it. We're talking hours, days, generations of knowledge and things that they do that takes months, and then something breaks and they've got to start the whole thing over. It's phenomenally impactful what they do, and they're the ones who know how to tap. So once you've gone through an hour with this guy, you look at the Harris tweed cap at the shop that costs 60 quid and you're like, sounds very reasonable. Took him about a month to put that together, and then somebody made a cap out of it. Whereas if you didn't know any of that, if you're just like, oh, here's a nice cap, 60 quid, are you kidding me? Are you going to charge that? So our association with the pricing comes from our understanding of how it is made, or how it is fixed, or how it is done. And so many of your clients are just thinking, that classic, like, oh, I just have a quick question. Like, well, your question might be quick. My answer is a little more complex, a little longer. So it's helping them to understand how you do what you do. There's a story about some people, I think in America, who were doing a particular kind of long smoked barbecue. And they did these videos explaining in exact detail how they did what they did. And as you can expect, a whole bunch of people went, oh, I can't believe that they're doing that. They're giving away all their secrets. It takes them 20 hours to smoke this brisket. Who's going to spend 20 hours? Once you've watched the video, you're like, you know what? I think I'll just come and buy the brisket. Thank you very much. You've done great. One or two people might do it themselves, but ultimately, the more you tell them about what you do and why you do it and the impact it has on them, the more they're willing to value what is paid. So you are doing so many things. There's so much you're doing for your clients. I guarantee you at least half of it, at least 30 to 50% of it, you are not telling them about, because you might not even know what it is. You're like, oh, of course we do that. Of course we do that. They don't know. They're just like, oh, I hand you my stuff and then out come these accounts. Perfect. You're like, yes, there's 74 steps in there. I'm working with a firm of accountants in the States right now who's going through their list of services. And they said, well, how much detail do I need to list? Do I need to say, we send this email, we send this checklist, then we review the checklist, then we call them with questions, then we review the checklist again? How much detail do I give? I said, well, my suggestion is that you write out all the detail for yourself so that you're clear. And then you pull out the 2 or 3 things that the client needs to know. They need to know you have a checklist. That shows you're organized and you're planning ahead and you're skilled and you have expertise. They need to know that you're there with questions, and they need to know that you'll submit it. So that's a simple thing that you can do. Maybe you've already started that. If you haven't, the simplest thing you can do, G Sheet, Excel spreadsheet, note on your phone, I don't care. But here are the things that we do, all of the things for this service. And what happened with these accountants I was talking to, once they started doing that, we hadn't even gotten to the impact column where we say, because we do this, this is how it helps them. And they said, I feel like we're a little cheap. Actually, I think that needs to go up a little bit, because they were realizing how much they did. So communicating to them what it is that you do is going to help them. Our own accountants, MAP, have a graphic for every system they have in their firm. So those of you in the UK, you'll be familiar with VAT returns, but they have one of these graphics for management accounts, payroll, bookkeeping, submitting tax returns, whatever, every single one. And each one is nice and color coordinated. Some things are automated. Some things the firm does. Some things the client does. And the big red ones are, here's what happens if you don't do your bit. And that is really powerful, because they're showing all this stuff that they're doing. Big picture, there's probably 47 steps behind each one of these boxes. But they're saying, at the end of the VAT quarter, we update your bookkeeping. And if your bookkeeping is not updated, this is what will happen with your VAT return. Then we prepare it. Then we send it to you. If you do not sign it off, this is what will happen. And this is when you need to do it. So it's combining what you're doing with that collaboration. You want to work together with them. You have to work together with them, because they're the ones that have to sign the form or whatever it be. So the more you can share with them. Now, to encourage you, this beautiful graphic that they put together with all this started out as a Google Doc. They're just like, oh, here's the things that we do. And they thought, well, we could make this a bit visual. So we're going to be talking about assets today. And I want to reassure you that if you haven't got to the stage of these beautifully designed assets yet, just start with the bullet points, the G sheet, whatever, and say, here are the things that we do. And this is the value to you. This is the impact to you. You might think of the negative impact if they don't do it, or the positive impact when they do. So some of the top fears that you all mentioned, where clients might be annoyed or leave. That is true. It is a fact. Some clients will be annoyed and leave. That will probably happen. But the percentage of that could be a whole lot less than you think. I have lost track of the number of accountants who have told me that when they finally pulled themselves together, documented all this stuff, sent out the repricing information, fewer clients left than they had feared. Because we build up our fears in our mind. It's going to be everybody. Everyone's going to leave. And again, you have choices of the stages you do, which we'll talk about. But use that. Everything that happens is an opportunity. So you have this opportunity to say, well, are there some clients I hope will leave? That's one question you can ask. So in the chat box, feel free to either put their first name or make up a fake name. I don't care. This isn't going anywhere. This is just the chat box for us here on Zoom. Think of a client you wish would leave. Just put their first name or dummy name or something to represent this client you feel safe to put in there. Just top of your mind. God, you know what? Kind of wish they would go. I think my life would be a little easier if they did. Drop that in there. And the reason I'm asking you to do this is because the first one that came to your mind is probably one who needs to leave and probably one who will leave. Because the reason they come to your mind, I'm guessing, is they are difficult. They don't reply to you. They don't read the long, extensive emails or reports that you take so much time sending. They don't watch your videos. They don't show up. They're frustrated. They don't pay the money, whatever it is. The reason you're thinking that is because I'm presuming they are not a great client. They're not an ideal client for you. So this is an opportunity to say, is there anything in our marketing that is drawing in those kinds of people? And could this repricing be an opportunity to move out some of those and bring in the ones that we love, the ones that we're a big fan of? Another fear you may have, as few of you mentioned this, is, am I doing enough? Are my systems good enough? Is my delivery good enough? Again, a genuine concern. It is right for you as the owner to think, how could we be doing better? Is the client experience good? Are they getting what they need? And the answer for that is to say, well, not just vaguely we need to do better, but where exactly do we need to be better? And how do we know? Have we asked the clients? Is it just something we think we know in our head? So this could be as simple as saying, do you know what? There is one thing that's been bugging me for a long time that I don't think we do as well as we could, and I'm going to fix that. I'm going to fix that before I tell everybody about the price increase. Job done. It can be as simple. It doesn't mean you don't improve the other systems, but it means you take this broad fear that fears all the things and brings it down to one action that you can take. And then the other ones you can continue to work on. And another one, I've had a few accountants say, listen, this is tough because I'm the accountant. I can see their QuickBooks or their Xero. I can see their bank balance. I know they can't afford this price increase. Here's the deal. When you do that, you are making the sales decision on their behalf. You're not allowing them to review all the information and make a decision. You are deciding for them. That's not okay. You don't do that anyway. You're the accountant. You give them the information and let them make decisions. My accountant is particularly good at this. The number of times I will ask him for his opinion and he will ask me 7 questions and then I will come to a decision. He'll say, okay, it's not his job to tell me what to do. It's his job to give me the information so that I can consider it. So if you are making a decision for them, I would back up for a second and say, God, I realize that it might look like this. That helps you to communicate it. Hey, listen, Jim, we're going to have to increase the prices, and I am reasonably sure you're going to look at this and think you cannot afford it. My question is, can you afford not to do it? Because here's the impact. This is what it will deliver. This is what it will give you. And without working with us, this might happen. Now, they might decide to leave, but if they leave with all the information, they will either come back later or they weren't the right client. So just touching on how much is the increase, ultimately, you're the accountant. You know how to do this. You probably know how to do this almost better than I do. Pricing for every service, things that make that price go up and down, and a client matrix. If you haven't done these things, a lot of times it's because of these fears. You've got this stuff that's overwhelming. And you're like, clients are going to be annoyed. I need to improve my systems. They're not going to be able to afford it. Just run the numbers. And sometimes when you run the numbers, it makes it really obvious. You might have a client that you're like, you know what? It's not actually that much of an increase. It's only another 20 quid or $100. Or I am over servicing and I need to apologize to them for that. And I'm going to give them a couple months before their price goes up, and I'm going to explain that. But when you say, here's the service, this is what it costs, these are the things that make the price go up or down. If you have more transactions, it costs more. If you're $1 million company, it costs more. If you have 3 companies instead of 1, it costs more. Just the variables. And then running through that client matrix. I did work with an accountant who ran a whole client matrix and then said, oh, I couldn't possibly increase those prices. And I said, well, that's your decision, but you are clearly losing money on these 3 key clients or however many. And it was a bit of a shock to the system when they were looking at the list. But having that data is the first step, and then we can look about communicating it. So if you have questions about how to calculate that, drop that into the chat. But as I said, I'm presuming that as an accountant, you are well familiar with running those exercises. What you're not as familiar with is, okay, fine, I've done all of that. How do I communicate it? So let's get to that. The first and most important part of your communication needs to be clear and direct. You need to get to the point. You need to tell them the prices are going up or whatever the change is. You need to tell them when it is happening. And this is the kicker. I would circle this and add little stars and make it focus on you of all the things. Whatever you say, if you say the prices are going up on this date, put them up on that date. Because the moment you tell them it's changing, and then you back down, if you do, you've lost a little bit of trust there. This is your chance. This is your opportunity to say, listen, we may not have fit to the boundaries in the past very well. That's on us. We overserviced. We gave you more than we're charging you for. That's our bad. We apologize for that. This will not happen anymore. From this date, here's what's happening. And then stick to it no matter what. Yes, there will be the odd exception where somebody comes in and says, listen, I'm really sorry, I didn't see the email, and then I need to fill in this new authorization, whatever. They're a great client, you work with them. That will be the exception. By and large, you will say, on the 1st of November, this is happening. You give them enough notice, and then you do it. And you look at the results afterwards. And as I said, running out of fingers to explain the number of people that I've talked to who said, wow, it was a lot fewer people who left or changed than I thought. A lot of times, it actually nets out about the same because you're maybe charging a bit more for work you're already doing. You're not doing more work. You're not sending them a quote for more work. You're sending them a quote to say, we're already doing this and we're going to charge you this. So you're getting more for your firm for things you're already doing. Great question about how much notice is enough notice. Really great question. It depends on a few things. One is your understanding of the clients and your relationship with them, maybe how much they are paying and how long they have been with you, and also the amount of the price increase. So I would argue if it's a very small percentage-wise price increase, you know, like, listen, it's going to go up by 10 quid, $20, maybe a month at most, you know, a couple weeks. It doesn't have to be super long. If it's going up by $100 or pounds or 1,000 or 2,000, and this is going to be significant, I would recommend giving them between 1 to 3 months. I'd probably lean more towards the 3-month side because it gives people time to get the email. You know, what if they're away on holiday or just didn't see it? It gives you time to mention it multiple times. Send the email, send another email, send a video, send a blog post. This is happening. And it gives them time to adjust to it. And actually, one firm I talked to, they decided on a price increase across the board for the whole firm. They picked a date. It was 3 months in the future. Say it was the 1st of October. So July, August, September. So on the 1st of July, they sent an email and said, guys, our price is going up as the 1st of October. You'll notice in the invoicing we send you will indicate what your current price is and what your new one will be, but it will not kick in until October, and we will honor these prices until then. And they did that for everybody. So for everybody, they're saying you're paying $500 a month. It's actually meant to be $600, but we're giving it to you at $500 until the 1st of October. And they had loads of people that are like, wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So they were recognizing there's a relationship there. Okay, so the other thing that you can do is go through the repricing campaign planner. So many of you will know we have what we call a campaign planner template. There's a standard campaign planner that you can use for any marketing campaign, and we go through that with our clients when we work with them, or you're welcome to download that. But we have created a repricing campaign planner. It is free. You can download it. Vitor has just put the link in there. I would encourage you to. There's a little button if you want to book a call. Do not feel obligated to that. But if you're like, listen, I'd love a chat to see how I can apply this, it's no trouble. Happy to do that. Whether you end up working with PF or not, happy to help. But there is a video in here that explains the repricing campaign planner. The most important 2 tabs of this planner, if you take nothing else from today's webinar, it is this tab, audience, and this tab, service. So I've given you an example of bookkeeping. That's one a lot of people say, you know what, we're not charging enough for bookkeeping. So I use it as an example. It could be anything. But what you're doing is saying, when I'm repricing, I want to make sure I know exactly who I'm talking to. What's their short-term goal? What's their long-term dream? What drives them? What problem is this solving? This repricing, what problem is this solving for them? What's important to them? What are their fears? What would stop them from buying this from us? And when you do that, it reminds you this campaign isn't right. Okay, prices are going up. I need to send some emails, whatever. It says, these are the people, these are their fears. This is what they value. This is what they don't care about. And then the second most important one is the service. So when you do this, just go, this is a G sheet. So you just go make a copy, because this is the master, make your own copy. And if you want, you can share that copy with team@wearepf.com. We'll get a copy of it. And you can say, guys, I've started it. Can you tell me what you think? Am I on the right track? Happy to do that. But this service tab is so critical, because this is where let's use bookkeeping as an example. You're going to increase your prices for bookkeeping. Well, first you got to say, well, what's everything that's included in bookkeeping? Literally, I don't care how long this has to be. If you got to stretch this out, 45 lines, whatever, put everything in there that this includes. Then how much does it cost? What does that vary on? What is that based on? What affects it up or down? So the bookkeeping fee is whatever it is per month. And if it's a smaller business, it's less. If it's a bigger business, it's more. Number of employees, whether they have an in-house bookkeeper, level of the in-house bookkeeper training. You all know this. We had a client who recently was writing out all the things for their services. She literally wrote, "We don't want your mediocre bookkeeping." She was just, blurting out what was off the top of her head. But she said, honestly, we don't. We want them to do their bookkeeping with us, because it's just going to cause more problems. That is the impact. What is the problem that this bookkeeping is solving? When they get their bookkeeping done with you, or if they don't get it done with you, then they have inaccurate data. They don't understand how well their business is performing, or they think they do understand and it's wrong. And then this shows up. What is the impact? How does this show up? If they don't get their bookkeeping done well, they spend too much. They take too much from the business. They're not able to pay tax, et cetera, et cetera. What other problems? Why can they not solve this themselves? You've got to answer all of these. Whenever I go through a campaign planner with any of my clients, the first thing we do is go through the whole audience section and the service one, and we just work it through. And I say, right, why can they not solve it themselves? And they say, well, they're not bookkeeping experts. They haven't had the training. So even if they try to do it, it causes errors and they don't know what they're doing. What if they tried to solve it themselves already? This is gold dust for your marketing campaign. When you email them, you can say, listen, you've probably been doing your own bookkeeping for a long time. Maybe you just had a PA or an assistant or your friend's cousin's brother's dog do it because it's cheap. And that's fine because bookkeeping isn't that important. Well, let me tell you, bookkeeping is so important, and here's why, and here's the impact of what happens when you have your dog doing it, as opposed to a qualified bookkeeper who knows what they're doing. I guarantee you some of you are thinking, honestly, if their dog was doing it, it might do a better job. That does happen sometimes. How do they feel? You got to tap into the emotions of how this person is feeling. They might feel embarrassed that they don't know bookkeeping. They might think bookkeeping is not that big of a deal, so it is your job to show them why it is a big deal. What are their expectations? What revenue? What impact could they have? One of our clients said, honestly, when we do the bookkeeping, it can save from thousands to hundreds of thousands. And here is an example. So filling in the service, you can do as many as you want. You can add columns, once you've made your copy, make it your own. But I do encourage you to pick, your top services, say, this is what we do. This is why we do it, but really focus on the impact and all of that, the audience and service. That will then tell you, okay, who do I need to communicate to? Who's my audience? Well, my primary audience is between this age, they have this goal, they've got this problem and this fear. And what we want them to do is to book a call with us to talk about their bookkeeping or whatever the action is. So filling in the audience and service tabs is the first step. Then there's these other sections where you can say, well, given that I have this audience with those needs and this misunderstanding of, for example, bookkeeping, it would be really nice if we had a graphic that explained everything we do in bookkeeping. It'd probably be a good idea to send an email to communicate the price increase with a link to the video. This is how this change impacts you. This is why we did that. This is everything that bookkeeping delivers for you. Maybe you write a blog post and you embed the video in the blog post and then you share the blog in the email. It becomes stackable content. Now, you don't have to do all of these things. And please don't use this as an opportunity to go, oh, shoot, I don't have to do my price increase. I can just work on PF's campaign planner for like 6 months and then I feel really good about myself. You got to do this. You got to do this and move to it. But if all you need is an email and a video, fine. Maybe you need a website page about your pricing. A lot of people I talk to when they're considering repricing go, we don't even have a page or a blog post or a video that says this is how we approach pricing. You don't have to say what the pricing is. We all know the pricing is different depending on the audience and their needs and their business. But if you don't even address it at all, then that is something you need to do. So those are some examples. The reason we've set this repricing template up specifically, as I said, we have a general campaign planner you can use for anything in marketing, but this repricing template, we just filled in some examples. Feel free to say, well, I don't know what to do. Okay, I'll write an email, I'll do a how we work page, and I'll record a video, because that's what PF says to do. If you need help with that, just ask. I think what will happen is as you fill in the audience tab and the service tab, it will become evident to you the things that you need to communicate to them and when. And that is this beautiful planning tab. This is the bit where you say, here's the core message we're getting across. And you go back to your service and say, right, so this is not the business owner's area of expertise or task they enjoy doing. I'm going to put that in here as my theme. And the call to action is book a call with us, or whatever the call to action is. I'm going to send an email to all clients with this theme. I'm going to record a video with these 3 key points. And I'm not going to put on Instagram or LinkedIn because this is just for our existing clients. I might upload our video to YouTube, and I'm going to update our pricing page with whatever you're going to update it with. Bam, week 1. And you do the same for week 1, week 2, week 3, however many weeks. Could be a 1-week campaign. I'm going to send this email, job done. I would encourage you to have at least 4 weeks in just about any campaign, because it takes people time. It takes people time to realize what you're doing, and you want to share it in different ways. Again, feel free to add columns and say, well, I don't want to use LinkedIn. I want to use something else. Fine, it's no problem. But the point is to address the client's needs and tell them about what you're doing and make it clear. And here's the fun part. You're going to love the budget and ROI tab, because this bit the average increase per client per month. So maybe it's 20 quid, maybe it's 200, maybe it's 750. And tiny side note, thank you, Vitor, you can pick your currency there and you say, right, okay, so we're going to get $750 per month from all the clients who sign up to this. So that's an actual example from a client we're working with who wants to get more of his clients on management advisory work. And what he's done is said, well, if 5 of our clients, let's say 5, 10, and 20, if 5 of our clients sign up to these management advisory services they don't have, it's like a financial dashboard, we will get 45 grand extra per year. And it's a very profitable service for us. If 10 of them do, we get 90. If 20 of them do, we get 180. That does help you to say, well, if I do want to get help from PF or whoever to get a pricing page created or an FAQs content or a blog post written or a PDF summary designed, then even if I spend 13 grand on it, if I'm getting 180, it's pretty good balance. And then if you're not sure, you just say, well, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do that. Now, granted, I do want to highlight here, when we say zero, you know it's not costing you zero. It's costing your time and energy, and maybe you put it out to people per hour Upwork and you think that'll be totally fine. And then they send you back something that you're not really impressed by, and you realize they haven't done any strategy on it, and you end up coming back to PF anyway. It's also fine. No judgment here. Sometimes you got to just do that. And sometimes you don't have the budget for it. And you say, right, okay, well, I'm going to soon do a bunch of these things. You're welcome to do all of this as DIY, or you're welcome to, when you download it, say, listen, I want to book a chat because I just like to understand if there's, a few things that you can help me out with. And ultimately, you're looking at the impact that it's going to have on your business, so you know what to do with it and the impact that it's going to have on them. So I'm going to circle back to a few examples. I want to give you some examples of what some other accountants are doing and have done. Some of the assets that you can do, and I would recommend you pick one of these. You're welcome to pick all 5 if you want. You're welcome to pick something that's not listed, but I would recommend that all of you on this call pick one of these that you intend to do as a result of this masterclass, because any one of these is going to make your repricing easier and better for the client. So the 5 that we've got here is send an email explaining why this price is going up and include a video. And if you are thinking, I can do the email, but I don't want to do the video, please remember that this is a big deal to your client. And the more personal you make it and explain why, the more chance there is of them accepting it and understanding it. Yes, you may want to book a call and all of those things, but a simple email saying, here's what's happening, here's why it's happening, here's the impact it's going to have on you, here's how you might feel, I understand that, and here's a video for me explaining those things. That would be an asset that you could do. You could also start building in or start actually doing the system of client meets, care calls, service reviews. So many accountants I talk to say, yes, we do have a system of care calls. And I say, great, do you do them every month or quarter? Well, I haven't really done them for like 6 months, maybe a year, maybe 18 months, actually. It's been a little bit. Things have been busy, So get back to that system, because remember, it is 6 times, might even be 8 times now, 8 times easier to sell to an existing client than it is to sell to a new client. So having those meets means it's not shocker, surprise, price increase time. It's, hey, let's just check what services you need. You need these other services. That's going to cost more, because that is how life works. You want to buy 3 pairs of shoes, it's going to cost you 3 times as much as 1 pair. That is how life works. So if they're like, yeah, but you've been doing this for ages at this price, that is your opportunity to say, yes, I did. That is my bad. I apologize for that. That was unfair to you. I was giving you services and not charging you appropriately. So that doesn't allow me to serve you in the best way. And I am fixing that now. That's what you're doing. And you're welcome to put that in your email and video. I have seen clients do this. I know that might feel scary, but I have seen clients do that, and the impact is massive. Because either the client goes, oh, okay, fine, I'm leaving. They were going to leave anyway. Or they say, wow, okay, actually, I need to look at my prices now that you mention it. And then you have an opportunity to talk with them. You do management accounts. You can have that conversation and sell the management accounts. A how we work page. This could be a page, could be a graphic like the one that I showed you, a pricing page or blog, service detail. Any of these things is going to be a helpful way to show your clients what you do and how you do it. So I'm going to give you some examples. These are real world examples of accountants who have created assets like this. And hopefully they give you an idea. Do not panic when you say, oh, it's so beautiful and it's printed and it looks so great and we don't have that. I don't care if you're asked you pick one of these and you put it on a G Sheet or a Google Doc or a note on your phone or Trello, or I don't care. Get the minimum viable thing that you do, and later you can make it beautiful. The most important thing is the message. I have a client who was filling in a bunch of things in a G Sheet and he said, sorry, it's so messy. I said, no, this is the messy stage. This is where we just bung it all in. Because if you spent 16 hours on Canva making it the most beautiful thing you'd ever seen, but the message wasn't right, you would have wasted your 16 hours. So you may as well spend 30 minutes throwing it together in a Google Doc, sending it to a client saying, does that make sense? Does that resonate? And they're like, yeah, it really does, except I have this question. And then you answer that question and you use their responses to help you. So this is another example for MAP. I showed you the VAT return system. This is the one they had for their management account system, which is at the month end, your bookkeeping updated, your management accounts are prepared. We send you a video, we have a review call, whatever. The same sort of process for every service. This is what we do. This is what you do. This is what happens if you don't do your part. Another one is giving information about your pricing and the varying factors of it. So, this is the R&D community, one of our clients who works with people, with accountants particularly, who are helping their clients with R&D claims. And they have this membership and they say, well, here's how much it costs. And here's the questions that you ask. They've got a whole section on their website of all the questions that people ask. Again, you can do that in a Google Doc. You can do it in a Word doc. You can do it in somewhere simple. You can put it on a blog post, but somewhere to list those questions. And remember to list the questions that reflect their worries or fears or things that you've been asked loads of times before, so that you don't have to repeat it. So what I would recommend, if you're doing a price increase and you're doing some comms about it, every time somebody replies and says, okay, I get it, I don't like it, but I get it, and I have this question, put that question on the list. Say, listen, one of the questions you might have is this. Here's a video explaining. Here's a blog post explaining. Keep it simple, minimum viable, but answer their questions. Another one is to explain your pricing strategy. So Kat from Fractional Finance has a whole page about her pricing. And one of the sections on that page is a video saying, this is our pricing approach. Everything's very clear on the Fractional Finance site that the pricing is not cheap. She's worked really hard at that. When we worked with her on her website, that was a big message for her. She wanted to move into a new realm, a new place where she could say that her prices were higher and feel proud of that. And actually branding and website was a big part of that. And just as a side note, a lot of the firms we work with who are ready and able to work with us on a rebrand and a new website, that has an impact on how people see you as a firm. So her previous website, a little dated, a little tired, a little traditional, she felt like that didn't quite match the, hey, our prices are a lot higher and we focus on this kind of work, very high level. Now she's like, my branding, my website, my pricing all match. People come and go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Or it makes sense and I don't want it, but that's fine. They're not an ideal client. So she has a whole video, just a 2-minute video to say, the scope might change depending on what you need. So we're going to do regular reviews. A lot of firms I talk to have gotten into a habit of having reviews, service reviews every 3 months, not every year, every 3 months, because they work with companies who are changing. They have twice as many transactions. They have 10 more employees. You've got to keep on top of the changes so that you can price accordingly. Now, if it's gone down, you just say, hey, you used to have this many employees, now you have this many, the price is different. That's the way it goes. And it might go down. That's another point. It's not always a price increase, especially with individual clients. This might go up and this goes down, and then the net is this. I have had emails from my own accountant saying, actually, this price from us is going down, and here's why. I'm always like, okay. And then the next month, this one's going up, and here's why. It's always here's why. Another client we have has what they call a relationship MOT, which those of you in the UK will be familiar with the MOT for your car to make sure your car is running well. Well, they're doing that as a relationship MOT that just says, listen, we're going to just make sure we're going the same direction and we understand how to serve you. We're going to check in on your goals. We're going to talk about what's stressing you out. And then they wrote a blog on it to explain why they have a relationship MOT. And then they include the calendar link so they can book one. This is a perfect opportunity to discuss a price increase because you're not just focused on the money. You're focused on the value and the worth and the relationship. Saint & Co. is a firm we worked with for many years who had stages on their website to explain the journey that you follow with the firm. This kind of thing helps people like, wow, there's a lot included in there. And every one of these steps has more detail, more checklists, more information. That's going to have an impact on somebody reviewing prices. And you can always compare and say, listen, I know it's possible for you to go to another accountant and get this cheaper. That is possible. If you do that, that's your choice. But I want to make sure that you're comparing apples with apples. This is a spreadsheet that one of the firms I talked to had where they work with creative agencies, and they had an agency come and say, well, just full transparency, we're considering your firm and this other firm, and both of you a niche in creative agencies. So we're just kind of meeting with both of you. And they said, okay, that's totally fine. Do you have a copy of our criteria for choosing an accountant as a creative agency template? And the prospect was like, no, I don't think I do. And they're like, we'll send that to you. And then they went away and they created this spreadsheet. And they said, right, okay, what do we need to put in here that reflects what we do? It's honest, everything in here, but they're saying, do they provide an executive video summary? Do you have a phone call? Do you send everything year to date? Do you provide a benchmark report? And they listed all these things. And the prospect went through the whole list and said, well, actually, your firm does all these things. The other firm we talked to doesn't do them all. Of course it doesn't, because this is the firm that created it. And it's not cheating. It's being transparent. They're saying, listen, we're just listing out everything we do. If you don't want these things, that's not what you need, then we'll just take it off. That's the whole thing with repricing. If they look at it and say, well, that's far too much, 144 plus 372, I can't afford it. Like, okay, no problem. So we'll just take this off and you won't get management accounts. And we won't explain to you what the results were and how to impact and how to make decisions. And we won't meet with you. That's cool. You're good. And then they say yes. And then 3 months later, they say, well, I have this question. They go, well, if you had the monthly management accounts, it would answer that. Do you want those now? Give them the choice. Sometimes they need to do it at their own pace. Another option, this is a firm in Ireland who has this pricing journey graphic to say, depending on the size of your firm, there are things that vary, and the investment is going to vary. If you want the financial controller work and you have a team of 30 plus, you're probably talking $3 to $5 grand. Again, somebody can come to this and go, I don't want to spend that. That's fine. There's no problem. As long as they have all the information. You're not just saying money. You're saying what it is that we give you for that money and the impact it has on your company. So using this repricing campaign planner, particularly the audience and service tabs, will tell you what kind of assets you need to create. So I'm going to ask you to put some in the chat box, but I'm going to remind you now of the top 5 that we put in here. You're welcome to put something else that's not there. Of these 5, if you were to create one of these, today or within the next week, because of being at this masterclass, which one would it be? You can put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can put email. You can put service detail, whatever. I'd encourage you to put that in and I would encourage you to do all of them eventually. If you're able to do that, it's going to help a lot. But even one of these can help you communicate to your clients, this is how we work. This is why the price is the price. Or this is how we approach pricing. Or here's all the detail of our services. Or this is how often we have a client meet, and this is the agenda that we have. This is what we cover, and here's what we do. So any of those are going to be really helpful. All of those would be helpful. So I'm looking at the comments, got a couple people doing the how we price. If you're not ready to do a website page, do a blog post. If you're not ready for a blog post, do a Google Doc. Do something to just get some of this. It's all in your head. If somebody said, how do you price? You would have ways to tell them. So start getting that down for the purpose of backing up your price increase, or just the prices that you have that you're worried perhaps that it would be, higher or more than they're expecting. But just because something is more than someone's expecting doesn't mean they're not going to pay it. It just means they want to understand why it costs that much and what they're expecting for that and what the boundaries are and when it needs to go up. Even that simple thing of this is how we price things, here's what the price is, and these factors could make it go up or down. Super helpful. Excuse me. Just remember the last time that you signed up for some kind of professional service that you didn't fully understand. When I had my kitchen redone, there was a lot that I didn't understand about the joiner and the plumber and the electrician and the painter and all of these things. What I did understand was that everybody in my life is like, it will cost more than you think. So I had that in my head, but I didn't know how much it was going to cost. So by the time I got a quote, I was like, okay, I guess that's the price. But then there were multiple things that got added, and then we had the whole kitchen done. And he said, right, okay, so who's coming in to paint? Like, I thought you were doing the painting. You did all the things. You literally organized every other part. He's like, no, we don't do painting. You want painting, you need to call this guy. So then I had to call that guy. And then he came in and painted it in a day, and it was done and dusted. And I thought, gosh, that would have been nice to know up front. And I would have loved it if before the kitchen remodel, they sent me a list of everything that they were doing and everything that was my job to source. It worked out. He's a wonderful person. I'd still highly recommend him. But my marketing brain is always going with, if only I had known that at the beginning. Same thing with buying and selling houses. Some of you saw my LinkedIn post on that. I am now much more educated about buying and selling houses, probably more than I even wanted to be. And every time something like this happens, you think, why is there not like a whole manifesto on all the things you need to know? But the tough part is because it varies for every single client. You know this. So if you can do a how we price or how we work or how we do these services, and then go through it with each client so they understand, they're going to be really grateful, and they'll be a lot more likely to agree with the price increase that you have because they see the value of it. So most of you, I think, have downloaded this already, which is great. Good job. I would, if you have ticked the book a call, great, we'll get in touch and we'll book that call with you. If you have not, and you start working on it and go, actually, I do want to call, please don't hesitate to ask, because it's either a, how could you or PF help me? Or if you just want a little direction. I love to help, and I want this to be not just a template you download and think that you'll get to, but something that actually helps you to create those assets, even in a minimum viable format. And if there's a way that we can help you turn that into something beautiful, like one of these things that we looked at that's really helpful for your clients, we're happy to do that. But start with the campaign planner, get that audience and service tabs filled in, and then you can get going with the actual actions of it. And I'd love to hear how you get on. We're here, you can email team@wearepf.com. Those of you who are in the PF community Slack, you can drop us a note there, and would love to answer that. And thank you for being here today. Thank you for your honest answers, and thank you for your care for your clients, because ultimately the care that you have for them and the work that you do for them is the worth and value you have, which makes it worthwhile for you to increase those prices. And it's a matter of getting that across to them so you both see that at the same time. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. We'll see you in the next masterclass.